Is President Joe Biden the best president in history, or the worst? Turns out, it's neither. According to the latest available survey of presidential historians, he's somewhere in between. But who is the worst, and who is the best? And where would other recent presidents, such as Donald Trump, Barack Obama, and George W. Bush rank on such a list? Here are the results of a sweeping survey of historians, political scientists and presidential scholars. Since 1982, SCRI has ranked presidents across 20 categories, ranging from integrity to executive ability. This is the first time that Biden has appeared on such a survey. Biographical information for each president from whitehouse.gov and the Miller Center at the University of Virginia. Let's start the range from the bottom. Number 45. Andrew Johnson, 1865 to 1869. Historians gave Johnson the lowest ratings overall. Johnson, who became president after Abraham Lincoln was assassinated, clashed with fellow Republicans over Reconstruction in the wake of the Civil War. He often tried to sidestep Congress and became the first president ever to face impeachment, but was acquitted by one vote. But hey, remember Donald Trump also has its impeachment story. Breaking record on impeachment. 44. James Buchanan, 1857 to 1861. Historians have criticized Buchanan over his poor crisis leadership. He couldn't seem to grasp the enormity of America's divisions over slavery, ignoring the strife and letting the issue fester in the years leading up to the Civil War. Number 43. Donald Trump, 2017 to 2021. Donald Trump has the dubious honor of being the only U.S. president to face impeachment twice. After he was defected on the 2020 election against Biden, he incited his fan, which led to riot on January 6 of 2020. Number 42. Warren G. Harding, 1921 to 1923. Harding's presidency benefited from an economic boost, fed in part by the growing mass production of motor cars. But scandals plagued Harding's time in office, particularly the infamous Teapot Dome scandal, in which cronies profited from secret oil deals, keeping him low in the rankings. Number 41. Franklin Pierce, 1853 to 1857. History has judged Pierce unfavorably for policies that helped put the nation on the path to civil war. He signed into law the Kansas-Nebraska Act, which allowed residents of new territories to decide on the legality of slavery for themselves. Number 40. William Henry Harrison, 1841. Harrison's presidency was marked by organizational chaos. At the time, it was common for job seekers to simply show up at the White House and ask for a meeting with the chief executive, and they did. Number 39. John Tyler, 1841 to 1845. Tyler, the first vice president ever elevated to the presidency after his predecessor died, was a strong advocate of states' rights. He later joined the Southern Confederacy. Number 38. Millard Fillmore, 1850 to 1853. Fillmore ascended to the presidency in July 1850 after the death of President Zachary Taylor. Historians fault Fillmore for signing the Fugitive Slave Act, which required that escaped slaves be returned to their enslavers. 37. Herbert Hoover, 1929 to 1933. Months after his election, the stock market crashed and the U.S. spiraled into the Great Depression. 36. Zachary Taylor, 1849 to 1850. Taylor, a former military hero, served less than a year and a half in office before his death. 35. George W. Bush, 2001 to 2009. Bush got his lowest marks due to his most controversial decision, the 2003 invasion of Iraq, based on the mistaken belief that Iraqi President Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction. 34. Benjamin Harrison, 1889 to 1893. Historians have faulted Harrison for poor communication skills and lackluster leadership ability. Harrison also tried to fix a high tariff problem, but prices rose and prosperity suffered. 33. Chester A. Arthur, 1881 to 1885. His administration enacted the first immigration law, which excluded Chinese people as well as paupers, criminals and lunatics. 32. Calvin Coolidge, 1923 to 1929. Coolidge is rated poorly for crisis leadership, lack of imagination and failing to work for equal justice for all Americans. He refused to use the country's economic boom to help struggling farmers and workers in other flailing industries. 31. Rutherford B. Hayes, 1877–1881. Historians have criticized Hayes' record on equal justice as he oversaw the end of Reconstruction. 30. Gerald Ford, 1974–1977. Assuming the presidency after Richard Nixon's resignation, Ford tried to move the country past the political crisis by granting Nixon a full pardon. Ford won the Republican nomination in 1976, but lost the election. 29. Martin Van Buren, 1837–1841. Van Buren received low rankings for his economic management. When he assumed the presidency, the economy was booming, but less than 3 months later, businesses and banks were failing, and historians believe his policies only made things worse. 28. Richard Nixon, 1969–1974. Though it's not what he's primarily known for, Nixon had a few accomplishments that have been highly rated by historians, ending the draft and enacting policies to protect the environment. He negotiated arms control with Russia and made a diplomatic breakthrough with Communist China. On August 9, 1974, Nixon became the first U.S. president to resign. 27. James A. Garfield, 1881. Garfield, a former Civil War general and congressman from Ohio, has ineffective foreign policy skills but was typically well liked as a president. He was assassinated just 200 days into his presidency. 26. Grover Cleveland, reigned 1885–1889 and also 1893–1897. Cleveland vetoed a bill that would have given government money to veterans, drought-stricken farmers and people with disabilities, and he sent in federal troops to break a railroad workers' strike. He is the only president to leave the White House and later return for a second term. 25. William Howard Taft, 1909–1913. Historians believe that Taft had a lot of presidential integrity. Taft favored the law over politics and went on to serve as Chief Justice of the United States after his term in the White House. 24. Jimmy Carter, 1977–1981. Some historians have expressed admiration for Carter's pursuit of equal justice, but he struggled with crises during his presidency. He is credited with creating a national energy policy to deal with oil shortages, and for bringing Israel and Egypt together for the Camp David Accords. But his administration struggled with economic stagnation and experienced setbacks such as the Iran hostage crisis. He eventually lost his bid for a second term.